Here is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 4. I think you're in for a real treat with this episode. I have a chat to Tanya LeJeune. It's just wonderful listening to her. We actually just got on a bit of a roll and we just kept talking, and I decided I'd split this one into 2 episodes. It's slightly ironic because I was even talking to her about the length of episodes, and we said that long didn't really matter because you could just stop your podcast player and listen to the end later. But then I decided, actually, I will split it into 2. So in this first half of our chat, you'll hear her talk about her background, the work that she does, some highlights of her journey as a music educator, and some people of influence in her life, some real pearls of wisdom, I think. You're going to really love the first half of this interview chat with Tanya LeJeune. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome, Tanya LeJeune. It is so exciting to have you here on the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. So I'm going to start off reading your bio, all very official and all of those things. So you have a listen, and at the end, tell me if there's anything else you'd like to add. All right? And
all right.
I don't mispronounce anything American. You can just fix me up. Okay?
I can help. Yes.
All right. So Tanya LeJeune lives in Denver, Colorado, USA, and is in her 26th year of music education. She has taught K to 8th grade general music in Jefferson County Public Schools in Colorado, and is a Kodaly instructor of pedagogy and folk song analysis at the Colorado Kodaly Institute at Colorado State University. Just as we like that K sound, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Tanya serves on the Elementary Music Curriculum Advisory Committee and is the music teacher mentor for Jefferson County Public Schools. Tanya is past president of, now do you say the letters or just say it like Rocky?
Well, we say Rocky because, it's like Rocky Mountain High.
Okay, I like it. Of Rocky, the Colorado Kodaly chapter, and has served as member at large for Oak. You'll have to tell me what a member at large is. Well, yeah, what is it?
A member at large has a 3-year commitment and fulfills many of the Oak board members take on committees and head committees, and Oak takes a lot of people to run because there's lots of different. Oak member at large is representation of the entire membership at large.
Oh, okay.
So like we have Eastern Division presidents, Western Division, Southern Division. We have those kind of people who represent specific regions. Oak member at large is supposed to represent all of the members across the United States.
Wow, that does sound a bit important. Are you voted or do you put your hand up?
Yes and yes. So it depends on the year. Some years there's, a voting, all years that there is a voting process. It's written in the bylaws, and Oak is very official about doing things according to the bylaws. So there's once in a while someone will go unopposed. And I did run for Oak member at large a few years before that and did not. I lost to a friend of mine, which was fine. And but then I did manage to get in. And yeah, so sometimes there's a lot of competition, and sometimes there might be one person up for an office.
Right. And it's that sort of thing that it's really, I'm sure, quite an honor to be there. But I imagine it's also just a lot of work, and it's okay if you...
It's a lot of work, but it's important work if you want your organization to thrive and if you want to perpetuate this philosophy, that we believe in. So
yes,
we should serve.
Yes. Oh, fabulous. All right. Sorry, I haven't finished your bio. I'll go back to that.
It's all good.
She has presented music education workshops and in services for several school districts, university, orphan Kodaly chapters throughout the United States and for Queensland, Australia. Woo! Tanya also co-hosts the popular general music education podcast, Music Teacher Coffee Talk, along with Carrie Nicholas. That is so exciting. And that's how I think a lot of my listeners will know you. They will know you through Music Teacher Coffee Talk, I imagine. So now you've said that, and we're going to talk more about that.
Okay.
It's a listen I love to have. Is there anything you'd like to add to that bio that, I don't know, just that I didn't read out that you think's really interesting or important?
Oh, well, I never know whether I should mention in my bio that I do have a family. Um, my husband is the art teacher at my home school, and we have two lovely children who are in high school and middle school, which is just so very exciting and full of adventure, high school and middle school. Um, so yeah, that would be the other part, is that, yeah, I try to have some of a life beyond the music education life.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, to have when you're passionate, and I use that word a lot, I know, but when it's just so hard to do, have a nice rounded life, isn't it? When you just are so consumed by helping your profession.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I often have to, take a step back and yeah, sometimes not work on things because I need just balance and I need to hang out with my people here. So,
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a skill to develop, though, to know when to stop, you know. So I think I should say I did meet you in 2015 briefly over in
very briefly, yes.
Minneapolis. But I do feel I know you a little because you've presented for us, the Kodaly, um, our state branch, the Queensland state
Yes.
branch. So a lot of our Australian Kodaly members have seen that fabulous presentation. Thank you very much. So we do have
Thank you.
this little bit of a personal connection, which is great. But most of the people listening here to this podcast would know you from your podcast, Music Teacher Coffee Talk. So one of the things that's attracted me to podcasting, and why I've been trying to do this for many years now, is that when you listen to somebody, especially over a period of time, you start to feel like you know them. You start to feel like they're your friends. So, because you've been listening, you've been in my ears or in my
Yeah.
car, on my
Yeah.
walks, so
But we're friends too.
so you sort of feel that. And we've been following your music education journey, your music teaching journey through your podcasts. So I'm just wondering if you could tell us some of the big pros. Well, there, I've just listed the big pro, I think, one of the big pros and cons of podcasting. Mind you, I am asking for a friend.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so tell us about the podcast and the pros and cons.
Okay. Well, Carrie and I have been doing this podcast for a little over 4 years, which is just amazing to think it's been that long, but it has. And when I approached Carrie, I really had in mind, well, I had been listening to podcasts and I listened to a lot of variety of podcasts, but I didn't see many music education podcasts. Aileen's podcast was out there, which I listen to religiously, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and I love, and it's great. And I thought, what I really like is the podcasts that I hear where there's a rapport between two people. And so I approached Carrie about that because I knew that I didn't want to go it alone. And Carrie is just a wonderful music educator, and she's got fantastic ideas. And we had been we're very good friends. And most of the time that we spend together, or much of the time we spend together, we just talk shop. And so I just thought, you know what? We're already really we just need to put microphones out because we're very geeky. We're always talking about pedagogy and like, oh, why did this work with this group of kids and not this group? We were always unpacking things that went on in our music room. Now, some of these things we cannot air because, you know, um, we talk about
Oh,
kids' names and we talk about like,
mhm.
huge mishaps if someone vomits on the floor that, we might not want to share with a podcast audience. But I said, well, let's just give it a go, as you might say, and we will try to do a podcast. And we came up with a format. The thing that Carrie is always concerned about is that they are very long. they're always around an hour, but I said, who cares? If someone wants to stop listening and then come back later, that's fine. That's no big deal.
Yeah, no, it
So
works. No, for
yeah,
me, I've got about a half-hour drive to and from school. So I'm either on the phone to my good mate, Deb Bryden, who, good heavens, I'm going to mention her every podcast, and we're geeking out talking about school. But if I'm not doing that, I get a podcast half on the way to school, half on the way home. You don't
yeah,
have to listen to it in one go.
right.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, when you look at all of the books or advice about starting a podcast, they always say to keep it under 30 minutes. And we just didn't follow that. I just, I said, we can't wrap it up. There's two of us. So let's just think it's 30 minutes for each of us. So there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm glad that I roped Carrie into this because it is great accountability for me, because I know that there would have been weeks or months where I would be, oh man, I'm tired. All these things are going on. I can't put out a podcast. But with Carrie, I know I have someone who is counting on me. And so we put it in our schedule. It's every other week, which is great because I don't think we could do every week. That would be overwhelming. Um, and we just have to keep each other accountable. There are some tasks that she takes on. She does the editing. I do the posting. I would say it's all a lot of pros, because I think that when we talk about what we're doing, we work through it and we come up with solutions and different ideas. And I'm a very oral learner, that I understand things best when I can talk through them. And I noticed even during grad school, when I would study for things, even music theory tests, I would record myself reading my notes and then listen to it as I walked around my neighborhood, because this is how I just take in information, right? I know that there's a lot of visual learners, and we all learn in all of those different ways. But I think overwhelmingly, I need to talk and I need to hear and I need to process that way. And so that's kind of why the podcast happened. Really, the only con is it's just not profitable at all
Yeah, you don't do it to make money
financially.
financially.
It's profitable, and so we have so many riches, but money's not one of them. So
Well, rest assured, there are just many, many, many music educators that you're helping and supporting, and because it's quite an isolating sort of profession often, isn't it? Like I
oh
know in
yes,
Queensland, mind you, it was an extreme case. There was one young girl, her first posting in Queensland state schools, her circuit, because we're circuits, I'm lucky I'm only got one school. And that's the dream, if you can just get at one school, so you don't have to further divide the brain that's already divided in a million pieces.
oh, that's another podcast we could talk. Yeah.
Oh, good heavens. Yeah, hey, we'll book that in. Let's do that another
Oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this young teacher, who I'm still in touch with, her first job, 11 schools in her circuit.
Oh my.
11. Now, they weren't all every week. It was up in, sort of rural Queensland. So coastal, but then she'd have to drive out. So she'd drive out to a one teacher school. She might go out there once a term or twice a term and go out there for half a day and come back. And I've never heard anything worse than 11 schools, So what I'm saying is we're often alone in multiple schools, and nobody fully understands the challenges that are placed on a music educator. That's fine. There are other teachers, and they can be your mates and they can understand to a certain extent. But I think until you're in a role like this, you don't have that depth of understanding. So we need to find people that support us and understand us. And on your podcast, you two support people all over the world, other music educators.
I love to hear that. I feel like that's even just it's a bonus. I feel like doing the podcast is just helps me, and I'm just thrilled that anybody else would get anything out of it. It's wonderful. I hope people come to it though just with understanding that our situations and are unique, and that maybe not everything that we advocate is for everybody. I say this just because I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts, and something now that the market is saturated with podcasts, we always have to remember that things are not necessarily vetted as they would be going into a book or even going into a conference, right?
Mm.
If you do a session like you did in Minneapolis, people have vetted that. I mean, I've been on those committees that vet those sessions, and not everybody gets in. So, I mean, when Carrie and I drop a podcast, yeah, I mean, we hope what we are saying is helpful and valuable, but I hope everyone comes with a critical mind and understands that we're just dropping our thoughts, and nobody else has given us the green light to say this is the best thing for music education for everyone. So, that's something I think about. But then again, people are grown-ups and they can choose for themselves. And in this World Wide Web universe that we have going on, we understand that if you go on YouTube, you can find. I I go on YouTube, or sometimes my students go on YouTube and they'll learn how to play a song on piano. I don't know if this has happened to you. And then they show you and you go, oh my goodness, that fingering is the worst. You're not, or they'll show me something on the ukulele, and I think, why would someone say to play a D major here? That makes no sense. And those things are happening because there are people who are just guessing at things and dropping them. And then hundreds of people go, okay, well, it's a D major chord here. So, I think about this a lot. Carrie and I have this conversation a lot about how we get a little worried about how saturated the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the things
Mm.
are.
But I think at least in our area, you would like to think that people are coming to this with a professional mindset, you know. Um, so I think we're in a fairly safe area. People will listen and go, that sounds like a great song, and I love that activity, and I don't think that's going to work because of, I don't know, I'm in Australia, or my children will whatever, or I like that idea, I'm going to just tweak it a bit so that it works better for me and my knowledge and my specific methodology. I mean, that's just part of being a professional, I think. So we've
Oh,
got
I totally agree.
so
Yes.
we've got
Yeah.
that advantage, I think, with our audience, that not all audiences have that advantage. And,
Hmm.
don't believe all you read on Facebook, don't believe all you hear on a podcast. But as professionals, I just love hearing what other people do and their ideas. And I then just put it through my own filter, because that's what professionals do.
Right. And you are a very seasoned professional.
I
So your ability to do that.
Is that
No,
a nice way of saying I'm old?
I'm a very seasoned professional, Debbie. No, that's my way of saying that you've got that critical eye, because I mentor teachers in my district, first year teachers, and also because I spend too much time reading Facebook music teacher groups that are not always the most helpful thing. I worry about those brand new teachers who are just seem so desperate, and they're just, oh my goodness. I don't know if you've seen on Facebook when people post, and Carrie and I joke about, it's that how do I teach music post?
Mm-hmm.
If you're crowdsourcing on Facebook at 11 o'clock the night before your lessons, woo, you've got you got to find a different way. So I worry about those brand new teachers is what I'm trying to say. And
Yes.
yes, I hope they do have that ability to figure out what works. I think when you're brand new, you just trying all the things and seeing what sticks. But when I was teaching brand new, and this will age me, so here you go. It was when the internet was only AOL online, which I don't know what was going on in Australia. We had something called America Online, and it was just one community, and that was being online, was going to this one community called AOL, and that's what everybody did at first back in the late 90s. um, and so I didn't have anything coming at me from Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube because they didn't exist. So really, I was taking things that I learned in college and just trying them out and tweaking them and trying them out and going to my state conference and seeing Jill Trinka and going, oh, well, that's awesome. Let's do that. But I just think about what would it be like to be a brand new teacher and feel desperate, but also have all this information and having to shift through it. You know what I mean?
No, yes, absolutely. And I have the same thoughts with some of the posts on the Facebook groups, and you think, oh no, exactly. And being even more seasoned than you, having 40 years experience, it was well before our internet. So luckily, I had a few amazing, what I would call them mentors now along the way, and then I actually joined the Queensland Kodaly Committee as a student representative before I finished college. So I was hooked into that network right from the beginning. And then I just would chip away, started a weekly course with the amazing Judy Johnson. It was Pam Burton who I connected with at college, which it wasn't even a university. It was a teacher's college. And I went, this makes sense. Oh, imagine learning music this way. Imagine understanding the sound and feeling it, and then being able to express it in my body and read and write what I hear and understand. The whole thing, that whole prepare, make, conscious practice stuff. I was going, it was just so foreign, but it made so much sense. And then I just started digging. And yes, like you said, trying things out, going to workshops. And I'm not sure how I would go now if I was brand new and just had the overwhelm. So but podcasts like yours and hopefully mine might help to clarify and give some other good ideas to those people who are feeling a bit lost.
Yes. And I do hope that is one reason that we really want to make sure, Carrie and I, we just put it all out there, and we are very seasoned. She's a little less than me, but she comes up with some wonderful things that I'm just constantly stealing from her. So it's just wonderful to have someone talk through all of that. And yeah, Carrie and I talk a lot during our podcast about go get your training. Maybe it's not Kodaly, maybe it's ORF, maybe it's Delcros, maybe it's something else, but I think that just was life-changing when I had my Kodaly training, because like you were saying, I thought, wow, if I had been taught like this, oh my, I feel like my undergrad experience was such a scattered mess because they were trying to cover all bases. They said, here's a little bit of Kodaly, here's a little bit of ORF, I don't even think we had any Delcros, but I just got a kind of I don't know, a smorgasbord of a bunch of stuff. And I just felt unfocused. And I felt kind of like an overpaid camp counselor, that I was just song and game. And let's do this. And now let's jump to this song. I didn't know what I was doing. My first year was so miserable. And then when I got my training, it was kind of like someone turned a light on, and I was able to go, oh, okay. I see. There's a path here that I can follow, and I can get better if I stay on a path. My friend Fritz, who is Delcro's wonderful master teacher, he always says, there are many roads to Mecca, but you got to stay on a path. Right. So that was,
I love it. That's a really good quote. And the way that I think about my core methodology training and the way that I teach, I actually think of that as like my skeleton. That's like my spine, my backbone. And as long as I've got that structure there and strong, I can do all sorts of other things, as long as I'm keeping on that. I can, and ukuleles, would not that be fun? Why don't we pop some ukulele in for a couple of years? Why don't we do a bit of this? But I've still got my backbone, and I think understanding that is what, for me, is what makes it all worth it. And we've got, without getting too colloquial, I guess, and maybe it's happening across the world, but we're having issues even with, you know, how we describe, and I had the same experience, a sort of a smorgasbord training. Well, now there's pretty well none. You know, we're not training primary music educators at the moment in our universities.
Really?
So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just saying we've got some fairly big issues trying to preserve music education in Australia and in Queensland. So it's about advocacy, but I think we're going to have a talk about that a little bit later on, how we can, you know, save music. Yeah.
Let's do it, Debbie. We'll save it.
Let's do it. Get on our white horse. Go. All right. Now, what would you say is the highlight, or you're allowed more than one, of your journey as a music educator? One, but if you can't stick to one, it's okay if you have a couple. Absolute highlight.
Oh, well, you know, I don't have any big shining moments that I can think about. Well, okay. I was very honored and excited to start teaching Kodaly levels at Colorado State University in the summertime. And that just was illuminating for me, not just teaching teachers, but also back to teaching in my own classroom, like to really have to fine tune everything I was doing in order to deliver all of this to teachers who didn't have any Kodaly experience. That was extremely formative, even though I always thought, well, once if I ever get to teach Kodaly levels, then that means that I've arrived and I know I'm just brilliant, but I'm never there. And that was just monumental for me growing as a music educator. I don't have any big awards or accolades that I can talk about, really. I'm just an elementary music teacher in a suburb in Colorado. The kids, they enjoy music, they have fun. I I get a big kick when I know I have students, children students who leave me because they move somewhere and they go to someone else's program. And it just so happens I know a lot of music teachers in Colorado. And just 2 weekends ago, I saw a colleague who teaches in a mountain town, and she said, "Oh, I have a first grader and she had you for kindergarten." And I will introduce a song and she'll say, "Oh, Miss LeJeune taught us that. I know it goes like this." And so I think those little things really mean the most to me, is when I hear kids on the playground doing a song and a game that we've done in class, or when parents tell me, "Oh, we are hearing Starlight Starbright all the time." And I think all of those moments mean the most to me. Those are the highlights. I've not made teacher of the year. I've not gotten any kind of accolades and statues and plaques and anything beyond. I'm just a Kodaly teacher. It means the most when I know kids love music. I know a couple of high school students who have gone on and become songwriters. And one of my former students is living in New York, and I follow her on SoundCloud, and she's dropping tracks. And I think those are the things that mean the most to me. Not to say that, oh, she's doing it because of me. It's not that. It's just that, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that she loves music, because really that's the most important thing. If they come away and they cannot sight sing in a pentatonic scale, that's fine. If they love music, though, that's really what it should be about, right? So when I hear that kids are continuing on, and when parents tell me that kids are bringing music into other parts of their life, that's the most meaningful thing.
Yeah, that's winning. Yeah. And like you said, even if they don't grow up to be professional musicians, I know every music educator needs to know that they have contributed to the overall development of that child. You've contributed to their neural development. You've contributed to their social and emotional well-being. You've given them joyous times in their life, in their childhood, in their schooling. So what we do is so important, and it is those little things. It's the kid line. I'm just agreeing. I just happen to agree they're the best bits. The kids that are like lined up waiting for music outside, and they're literally bouncing because they're so excited to be coming into music.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
You
Or
know,
when the kindergarten teacher comes to me and they say, they are so excited that you're back this week because I have my traveling school that I go to, and they're like, oh, they know you were coming back and they were so excited to see you today. I just love that.
that's winning, and that's highlight. I agree. Okay. Okay. Now, Pete, you've mentioned a couple of people as you've been talking. Who would you say has been quite influential in your life, professional or
Okay.
personal?
Oh, yes. So I'm dropping these names, and we're not, I mean, I shouldn't, I'm not to assume that anyone in any other country knows these names. So my level one Kodai teacher, her name is Jo Kirk, and she teaches in several levels program, or she has taught in several levels programs in the United States, and she is joy personified.
Oh, that's a
Joe,
compliment. Oh, wouldn't you love
yes.
someone to say that about you? Joy
Oh, yeah.
personified. Oh, I love
I
it.
don't
Okay.
think I have quite that much energy, but that would be awesome. So yes, Mrs. Jo Kirk, she was one of those people who turned the light on for me because she was just so joyful, and there were so many things I learned from her, but she was so very much uh, she very much stressed the research and developmentally what's happening in these years,
Mhm.
and that was a huge takeaway because before that, everything I got in music education was just like, well, this probably works, and this has happened since the 1960s. And I didn't get a lot of hard research of like developmentally, a 7-year-old should be able to have this attention span, should be able to do these musical skills, should be at this reading level. I mean, that for me was wonderful because it was solid, and it was something that I could go, okay, now I can begin. Now I can really make sure that my lessons are not just we here we are having fun singing and moving, but like now we can really work on some skills. So I loved the organization of the research that Jo Kirk brought, in addition to the joy and the love of all of that. Jill Trinka, Dr. Jill Trinka, uh, I'm not sure if you're familiar. She has lots of publications. She is a folk song researcher, but she also teaches in Kodai levels programs, and just the joy of folk song and songs that have been passed down for years and years and years here in the United States. Most of them I first heard via Dr. Jill Trinka, and I saw her present in New Mexico during my first 3 years of teaching. And that was the first time I saw a music session that made me go, I want to do exactly what this lady's doing. So I got to find out what's happening here. In New Mexico, when I started my career, the only game in town was Orff, and we had a very strong Orff chapter, and they were lovely. And I went to those workshops, and then the next week I would teach everything that I had learned on the workshop. But I just felt aimless. And then when I saw Dr. Jill Trinka, it was just amazing because I thought, here's the whole package because I love this music. I could sing it over and over again. Whereas honestly, some of the Orff things that I learned, and not all of them, but and some of them were just created by teachers, but I just felt dorky, honestly. Um, and with some of the material. And I thought, I can't sing it or chant it to my children if I don't love it. And so hearing Dr. Jill Trinka, getting all of those folk songs, and then following that trail was huge. So I would say those were two very influential people. My husband is very influential as well, because he's the art teacher at my school. And I started teaching a year after he did. And I've been at the school for 23 years, and he's been at the school for 24 years.
Okay.
So,
You're established there, you'd say.
yeah. So just it's interesting because he is in the same boat as far as he's an island also,
Mhm.
because he teaches art. So we don't talk specifics about, music pedagogy and art pedagogy, although sometimes we do compare a little bit, but just having teaching the same children, seeing the same children day
Mm,
to
mm,
day.
mm, mm.
And then I see my husband every 45 minutes when we're at the same school, you know, because our doors open, one group of kids go out, another group of kids come in,
Yep.
and we share things like, oh, well, so and so is having a rough week. I hope next week is better. You might check and see if he had breakfast, those kinds of things. Just so my husband and we talk shop a lot, and whatever I can't talk with him with pedagogy, I usually am talking to Carrie. So Carrie is just someone that I can always
Yeah.
call up and try things out. And
Yeah. I think
so
you need
those are
one
the
of those,
people.
don't you? You need one of
Yeah.
those. But having a husband that understands the sausage factory is good. You
Mhm.
know, the kids come in, shh, they're
Oh
gone.
yeah.
Next kids, shh, gone. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Jill Trinker, I just speaking for myself, I didn't know a lot about, but we in Kodaly, Queensland, we had her do a webinar for us. So absolutely delightful and beautiful voice, and so interested in what she had to say. So yeah, it's something I'd love to chase up further. So yes, some of the people in the people that do the Kodaly webinars would certainly know now of Jill. So it's great. But I really do think that our journeys are marked by people, aren't they? It's not
Yes.
even so much events, it's the people and how they affect you. Yeah. In this episode, you'll hear the second half of the chat that I had with Tanya LeJeune. We cover things like gratitude, we hear some of her nuggets of fabulous, and so much more. Enjoy the second half of my chat with Tanya LeJeune. For what are you most grateful in your
Well,
life?
I love that I get to teach music.
Yeah.
Debbie, don't you ever have those moments where
Yep.
you look around and kids are singing and moving or reading something or notating, and you go, this is my job.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't
I
tell
get
anybody.
paid to do this,
They're
dude.
going to send me to a coal mine because this isn't right. I shouldn't get paid for this. I mean, not when I say this,
Yeah.
I don't mean that I don't work hard. I think we all work hard, but I get to choose to, I mean, I've chosen to work hard at teaching children music. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Who gets to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm very, very grateful that I found my place. Just like most music education people I know, I thought I was going to be the next greatest choir director, right? So everyone coming out of their undergrad experience, well, I'm going to teach high school band, or I'm going to teach high school choir, and I'm going to teach high school orchestra. But there's not that many positions. And so a lot of us end up teaching elementary music. And I kind of just was like, I just got to find a job. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here's one. And it turned out to be a perfect fit because I am a very good generalist, right? I am not a fantastic choir director by any means, but I can do some. I am not wonderful at all these different, I can boom chuck on the piano. I can keep you going on the guitar. I can play a little ukulele. I can do hand drums. I mean, as far as bringing in all of these skills on the instruments, I'm okay at many different things. And so now I get to fulfill those passions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just through teaching, because when I get to sit down and play my dulcimer while first graders are singing, Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Otherwise, I'd just be sitting in my living room. But like, I love that I can take these things that could be hobbies, like playing the dulcimer, like playing hand drums, and I can bring that knowledge into my classroom and really go somewhere with it. So I just kind of feel so lucky that the things that I love to do, there's several of them and they all fall under the umbrella of music. And then I get to share my love with these children who are loving it for the most part, right?
Yep.
We're very lucky.
Yep. Yes. Who else gets to sing songs, play games, help lead children to music literacy? It's just, it's joy, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
I did not fully, I have always loved it, but I did not fully realize the absolute joy I have until fairly recent years, because I know I felt a little overwhelmed with the work of the job, the admin side, the number of children, the other pressures of the job, not the pressures of what you do in the classroom, everything else about the job. And I think it's only really been the last few years that I've just gone, I've always loved it, which is how I ended up, lecturing at Kodaly levels and doing various things because I wanted to help people love it too. But truly to just be present and enjoy and love what you're doing and appreciate it for what it is. We're so lucky. And I really think, I feel a bit like you. I'm a jack of all trades. And I feel sometimes going, oh, jack of all trades, master of none. No, I can
I
bash
say
out.
that all the time, Debbie.
I can bash out a few things on the piano and I can do a few chords and I can play the recorder and the kids think I'm great. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I had this conversation earlier. But I think what I am at heart, and I'm going to just put a little potential judgment on you. I think that we are educators at heart. I think that's the core. We are educators in the music field. We are music educators. And if you were a choral director and that was your thing, you would become the best choral director you could. You would hone your skills, you would focus on that, and you would be an awesome choral director. So it's not that you couldn't be, you could be if that's what you chose to do. But because we are in a job where we literally have to be a jack of all trades, we don't have time to be specifically excellent in just one area because we have too many areas. So I just think we're music educators and that's what we're good at.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think we can only.
Well, yeah. And you know what? There's nothing, that's a wonderful thing to be. And I think being older now, I am less apt to get uh, frustrated by my lack of skills in any one instrument. Like I did have, I think in my 20s, probably a good decade of like, oh, I'm not a good enough singer. I'm not a good enough this. And oh, I'm playing bass in this rock band and I'm not good enough. It was always this not good enough in music because I always was, oh, I love music. I need to be awesome. But the message that I want to pass on to the children I teach and my own children is that it's not about being the best. It's about enjoying music at whatever level that is. It's not about the judgment. It's not about be the best bass player, be the best singer. It's about enjoy music, play because it feels good, because you're building community, because you love it. Like be engulfed in music because it's worth that. Besides, not, it doesn't matter if you're not the best. So it took me a really long time and I still have my moments, but oh, that is just such a burden to just always trying to be the best or worry about, am I good enough? We're all good enough. We are all musical. We all are worthy of being musical, no matter our skill.
Absolutely. Even the little one who is not matching pitch and keeping in time, and they are all worthy. And I have a little favorite that I actually have in my classroom every year. Every kid, I make up these little workbooks, right? And the front cover has been drawn by me, right? I really love drawing when I get time to do it. Am I good? No, I am not at all. But I say to the kids, I drew that front cover, and they're beautiful, and they go, oh, that's good, and I go, well, thank you for saying so. It's not really good, but you know what? I loved drawing it, and I loved drawing that to share with you. And it doesn't matter if I'm really good at drawing and being good at art. I love doing it, and I want to share that with you. And it's just like what we do in music.
Exactly.
So that's a relevant one, since your husband's an art teacher.
Yes, I always joke that I married him so that he would do my my programs for the concert and make them all lovely and artistic. And he did our music teacher coffee talk logo. He's done the Western Division of Oak. That's him also. One of our Rocky illustrations for the Colorado Kodaly chapter, that's him too. So his artwork is sprinkled all over the Kodaly world now. So
oh well, good. Thank him on behalf of all of the Kodaly people. Good on him. Okay, now, because I want our listeners to come away with something that they can actually go and try tomorrow in the classroom, right? Or something to think about to apply to their practice. I'm going to ask you to give something that I've decided to call Nuggets of Fabulous to all of the listeners. Now, I've picked 3, but really, I don't care. Could be just 1. Your nugget might be really golden. Could be 5, but a little group of your all-time favorite resources, activities, songs, games, behavior management trick, organizational idea, absolutely anything. That's a nugget or 2 of fabulous from Tanya LeJeune to the listeners. Okay, no pressure.
Oh my goodness. See, this is where I should have done my homework, Debbie, because I didn't write things down. And you see, I'm looking up and all around.
Look around.
I've got shelves and shelves. And then I'm also thinking, oh no, this is an international audience. So I can't say something that's purely American.
Oh no, could be. It could be. My chat with Aileen, she talked about a music education resource that I'd not heard of that she loved that had America in the title.
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm looking for it. Yeah, and I would have said the same thing.
And so
it's called an American methodology.
That's probably it. Yes.
By Lamar Robertson and Ann Eisen.
So I have to look it up and check that out.
I put money on it.
So it's okay if it's American. We can, translate or check it out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a series of books as one of my thing. So Dr. Susan Brumfield, who is in Texas, she has some books called First We Sing. And they all have this lovely tree and bird cover. So you really have to look at the titles to see what it is you're getting. So she has 3 song books called First We Sing. And those, okay, look at that. All right. First We Sing Songbook 1, Songbook 2, Songbook 3 is up there. And these are just excellent resources for anyone who doesn't have resources, because Susan, Dr. Brumfield, she includes the songs, she includes the games, and CD that just dropped out. But I think now, see how long I've had these. I think now they have a digital audio component. So she has had children record these so that you can hear them. And she gives you the notation, of course, the game directions, but then the pedagogy of how, okay, here's how we are going to sing and move with this song. This is As I Sat on the Sunny Bank, right? This lovely tune that's been used with many different lyric sets. But then she says, read, write, listen, and she gives you ideas of how you could bring this into a melodic and a harmonic context. And then she gives a cultural context blurb. And these are just brilliant books. Everybody should have them. They're not purely American. And I'm going to keep this in the same realm. And I'm looking around because I'm seeing if I can see my other ones. Dr. Susan Brumfield, she did a wonderful collection called Over the Garden Wall of English folk songs that is lovely. And then she has a Scottish collection called Hot Peas and Barley-O. And she took a sabbatical and went and collected these songs, and she went door to door. I've heard her talk many times about how she was in, I think, Scotland, I believe, and she was going door to door, and she was trying to find like original recordings of children from many years past singing these specific songs. And she happened upon, I think it was a pastor who had been there and had recordings, right? Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but she's just done some wonderful research in not just American folk songs, but she always talks about, she's got an Italian book that's supposed to be next. And they're just wonderfully notated, wonderful pedagogy. She also has pedagogy books that ties into these songs, these Hal Leonard songs, is the publication. So I would say pretty much anything that Dr. Susan Brumfield has published is wonderful things to dig into, great songs, things that I've used in my classroom. So there's that. I feel like I'm being too vague, because when you say a song or a game, I don't know if I can put my finger on like
to
just
pick one. It's hard to pick one. And just the good resources is wonderful. That's wonderful. People can go and find them and have a little dig themselves.
Yes.
Which is good too. See what grabs them.
Yeah. As far as little nuggets, as far as favorite nuggets or wisdom or whatever to pass on, is student voice and choice is really important, right? Well, it's really important all the time, but I've noticed right now, giving the students even the smallest choices is so good for them. It really includes them, and it makes a huge difference on their buy-in in my music class. Today I had a drum circle with fourth graders, and this was the simplest little thing. I said, okay, we're going to go around the circle. Everyone's going to answer. I'm going to ask what's for dinner, and you play your answer and say it, like chicken nuggets. And I said, okay, who wants to start? And one boy wanted to start. I said, which direction do you want to go, clockwise or counterclockwise? I mean, these are the tiniest little things, right? Whereas I know early on in my teaching, because I was so anxious to be taken seriously and not, have the kids run all over me, I was like, this is what we're doing. You start. And maybe I would say, who wants to start? You start, let's go. So now I really make an effort to say, okay, which would you like? Would you like to write this right now? Or would you like to write this on whiteboards? Or shall we use pencil and paper? Like the tiniest choices make the biggest difference. They have agency, they have buy-in, right? Even to the point of, if we're planning a concert, I'll say, okay, we need to have this many songs. I've chosen these two. And what shall we do for the rest of them? Like, here are some things that we've done in the classroom this year. Let's vote. And these days, it's so great with the technology, because I can give out a Google form and have kids, click their answer. And I get this beautiful spreadsheet that shows, with overwhelmingly, they want to do this song. And that's just a wonderful thing, to be able to quickly have kids get those choices. So as far as like nuggets of, I don't know, advice or wisdom. Student choice is just
Yes. And it's something I think
wonderful.
that it's easy to overlook when you're trying to get through your 7 or 8 things in a lesson. I've got to get my, practice this particular rhythmic element, and I've got to prepare this melodic element, and we haven't done this game, and you're going, and you can lose sight a little bit of the actual child and what they're thinking and feeling. And that student choice, yes, I think that's an easy one to lose sight of. That certainly is a nugget of fabulous. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'll give a shout out to chase games, because chase games are always a big favorite.
Oh, they are so good. Always, like, I do the fast walk in the music room though, because, but always a winner, chase games. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll reel off a few.
Reel off a couple.
Ida Red, Ida Blue. Do you know this one?
Yes, but I've never done it as a chase game, just as a song.
Oh, okay. Well,
So, yeah,
this is something Carrie and I just finished a couple of presentations here in Colorado. And one of the things that we did was Ida Red, Ida Blue. And both of us do it the same way, where you have a circle of children and one person is in the middle with an envelope that says Ida Red and an envelope that says Ida Blue. Mm-hmm. Everybody sings down the road and across the creek. Can't get a letter but once a week. Ida Red, Ida Blue. I got stuck on Ida too. And on Ida Red, Ida Blue, you hand those 2 envelopes to 2 students who are next to each other.
Yes.
And they take off around the outside of the circle. And whoever the person who gave out the letters, you put out your hand in that empty space where they have left. Mm-hmm. You put out your hand, and whoever comes and puts the letter in your hand first wins. Now, there's lots of variations of this so that people do not run into each other, because I do have them run in my music room. One of the things that I do for Ida Red and Ida Blue, and I know Carrie does this too, is that when they meet halfway, they have to change letters.
Oh,
so if you started with the blue letter,
yes,
then you have to come back with the red letter.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. And then you can also level up by having choice cards inside the envelopes. So after they've played it a couple of times where they are racing around the circle, trading letters, you can have them, once they get their letters, they have to pick a card out of the envelope, and you've put inside the envelope different ways to move. So it might say stomp, crab walk, walk backwards, skip, gallop, right? One child pulls out gallop and the other child pulls out crab walk. And now they have to go around the circle and they have to be doing their motion. But when they meet halfway and they switch letters, they also have to switch motions.
What? Oh, that's so fun. I'm actually.
And this way, the child galloping, right? We would say, oh no, they're going to automatically win. It's going to be faster. Well, if you only can do that halfway, because then you have to switch motions. Yes. Now the switching motions, I have to attribute to Carrie, because I was always having them pull out motions, and then, I would have both of them do one motion, but that was Carrie's way, is that they each pull out a motion and then they have to switch motions. It really keeps them guessing. And with your older children, even though we're not doing music literacy things, we want them to have like a heightened, like, oh, I got to really be paying attention because there's this added element that I have to do. So,
so do you have a blue envelope and a red envelope? Or
I do.
Yeah. It's so exciting. Oh, I so want to do this. I do like the song. I get them to innovate text too and create a new color and a new rhyme. Even the older kids like doing that. So, like, I've done all sorts of things with it, obviously melodic ostinato and all, but I've never done an actual game, and I am so doing that. That is awesome. Thank you. That's worth it. You're just welcome. For me. Hopefully someone else will think it's a great idea too, but I do.
This past week with first grade, kindergarten, we've been doing "Come Back Home, My Little Chicks, We Won't Come, Why Not?" It's a Hungarian folk song that's been translated to English, and it's honestly a little clunky in English, so the children have to hear it many times. But it's a song between the little chicks and the mama, and there's a wolf, right? And at the end, the wolf escapes the circle and tries to catch the mama. And a lot of these chase games, sometimes there's just no winner, or I don't care. And the kids, there's nothing you get for winning, just the loveliness of winning, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if chasing goes on too long, I'll put up 10 fingers and I'll silently count down. And it's the children who are not chasing, they get the clue and they start counting down. And they know that once we get to 0, we're done. It doesn't matter if no one was caught, and we move on. But I understand with the chase games, I have had students bam into each other and have bloody, mouthful of blood.
Yeah.
That has happened.
Yes.
They laughed all the way to the clinic. It was hilarious, apparently. But no permanent damage. But yeah, it has happened.
Yes.
Just the one time. I try to keep doing things like trading the leathers. That helps in chase games. Another thing, Mrs. Joe Kirk taught me this, is that when kids meet on the other side of a circle for any chase game, they have to shake hands and say, good morning, good afternoon, good night, and then go on their way.
I like it.
Is another thing to slow kids down.
Fabulous. Great ideas.
Yes.
I love it. And I'm sure we could go on for lots and lots, unless there's another one you're desperate.
Oh, I'm not desperate. I'm just, there's just so many. No.
I know, that's the problem. There's so many.
Okay, here's a big piece of advice. Go get your training. If you don't have your Kodaly training and you are intrigued, you should go get your training.
Yes. We've actually, Kodaly Queensland has just started a part face-to-face, part virtual in Queensland to help our remote members. So they can do level 1, Kodaly level 1, and it's just started with a couple of fabulous lecturers. So that's very exciting to have that hybrid thing happening here in Queensland. So yeah, I really do think that's life-changing for me. Yep, you need that sequence, and then you can vary slightly and add things, but you're doing it from a position of knowledge and understanding, instead of that, like you said, the scattergun of when you're new and not sure what's happening. I'll try this. I don't know why. It's fun. I'll try it. Because even when we play games, there's reasons, they all have some sort of pedagogical reason behind them.
Yeah,
as we know.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as we were talking about earlier, it really seems to be a time when music educators have to fight for our existence, which is ridiculous, because I think we're one of the most important jobs in the world. Slightly biased, of course. So just, do you have any quick advice for music educators to help them with their advocacy around because at the moment, we're even quite involved in a campaign here in Queensland. We're losing some of our amazing music programs in our government schools, our state schools. So we're involved in an official campaign. So basically, any advice around advocacy, convincing people, like, we don't have to convince the people listening to us now that they're important and that music education is important, but how could we get our audience to help spread the word about the importance of music education for our children?
Yeah, that's very big. I think visibility is step 1. If you're an elementary music teacher, you need to make connections with community. And the hard thing is, a lot of this goes above and beyond what your job is, because when you take a job and you read the contract, it does not necessarily say also do simple things like having a blurb if there's a school newsletter, or these days, if you happen to have students on Google Classroom or in any kind of electronic thing, Class Dojo, any of these things, you can easily send home, here's what we're doing in music class. It doesn't have to be long. Second graders are learning half note and also how to sing from the staff. Uh, Something that maybe parents will read, but sometimes they won't. Another thing that I think is really powerful is to turn your concerts into not just performances, but a time for you to educate the
Mm.
community, the families. Because I really think that is part of our job, is we're not just educating the children, we're educating the community about why they should have music in their lives, right?
Yeah.
So a performance of, say, second grade could include, um, they perform, maybe we have instruments added to a song, and we say, we are learning these things musically, but also these are the executive functioning skills that are included in what we're doing.
Mhm.
These are the social skills that the children have built as they went and learned this piece, because they had to cooperate and they had to put this together and they had to make choices and decide who was going to be. So you can pull in all of these tangential skills that the children are learning through music. This is not to say that music is not the number one reason we're there. That's the number one. Music is worthy in its own right,
Yes.
right? But it is not harmful at all to say, here's one of the reasons why music is worthy, is because we're building community and relationships and skills. I mean, this is why I love music. I don't love music just because I sat in my room and listened to that Fleetwood Mac album 10 times in a row. I love music because of the people that it brought me to,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So whenever you have the opportunity to educate parents, and also in your program, your physical, like these
Yeah.
are the songs the
Mhm.
children are singing, there should be, okay, we are singing this song. We learned that it is from France, and we learned where France is in relation to us. And we even found out that some of us have some ancestors in France. Like, if you have any of that to put in a program to say, wow, look how this lets us learn about people of other places and other cultures. Look how it lets us, it gives us those mirrors, windows, and sliding doors into other countries, into other cultures. So I
Mhm.
think it's really important to bring that up over and over again, because they don't know unless you tell them,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And something I've been doing for years and I've done presentations on is a first grade singing games night, where or kindergarten singing games night. I've done it with first grade and with kindergarten. Kindergarten is the youngest grade I teach, and it's where families come, and I have songs and games, maybe 6, 7, or 8, and we do them together. And the students help me teach them these games. We do London bridges. Right. We do these
Yeah.
things that maybe we kind of know, adults kind of know, but not really. And they see the joy on their children's faces, and they experience the joy too. So some of them might come in and go, oh, I'm tired, I've worked all day, and now I don't even get to sit down. I thought this was going to be a performance, but I don't put out many chairs, and I say, this is for us to participate, so you can feel the joy that your child feels in music class. And it also gives me a minute for me to say, by the way, parents, did you see how we have to choose partners? That's a skill that we're going to carry on through the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having these kind of events where you're inviting in families, and if you've got them there, right, you got to get on your soapbox and say, now that you're here, by the way, here's the importance of music. Look at all the things we're doing. Oh, and hey, see the joy? Isn't that worth a lot too? So I think that you don't have to go to huge efforts to sing in a baseball game or to bring your students out to sing at the school board meeting. You can infuse all of this just within their class, your community at your school.
Mm. Love it. Love it. Thank you. That's great. And so very true and doable. Like you said, it's a little bit more effort and it is a little above what we have to do, but I think you reap the benefits, don't you?
Right. Oh, and don't forget the classroom teachers. It's always good to mention to class, and not in a pushy way,
Mm.
but it's a wonderful thing when students make connections from what they're learning in their homeroom to what they're learning in the music class. And then teachers come to you and go, oh, I had no idea we were talking about the science of sound. And they said, oh yeah, we've already seen the tuning fork splash in the water with Miss LeJeune. That's wonderful
And
to
we know
make
the
sure.
big boom whacker sounds lower because it vibrates slower. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So don't forget the teachers in your own building, because they need to know it too. They might just, unfortunately, look at you as their planning time. But
Yes, they might.
if you
And even worse than that, they may actually fear music. In fact, episode 1, I actually talk about this. And so if you are afraid of something, they're afraid of, they don't have music knowledge, and so what you do is all mystical, and I don't want to play games, and so there's all sorts of mindsets that we might be having to combat, as well as the fact that we're just the babysitters while they do important work. So yes, you've got to win them over, don't you?
Yeah.
And that takes time, effort, and thought. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does. But it can happen.
Yes. And I think the longer that you're in a place too, it's very difficult when you're itinerant and you're transferred a lot. So, but I think that should be one of your main aims. And make sure you go to the staff room. It's really, at least sometimes, it's very easy to keep yourself a little bit removed because there's so much to do, and you've probably got a rehearsal, or you're meeting with kids to catch up on that bit, or whatever. You just don't have that time to sit in a staff room, but carve out a bit of time, I think, regularly, so that you're in touch with those people. Yeah. And if
they give you the opportunity to have, your students, kindergartners, wouldn't it be great? Can your kindergarten class come see the 5th graders, because they just are rehearsing the song and they're really excited about to share those kinds of things.
That would be great if you could do that. I'm finding in today's schools, there's less and less flexibility for that sort of thing to happen. We used to be able to sing the upper school, our grade 5s and 6s, we could prepare a picture book that they would go and sing to our preps, well then preschoolers, and they would sit, sing a picture book. I mean, how amazing. But that would take the important learning time from the prep classes if it was done in your grade 6 music lesson,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? I think there used to be a time, even performances, where people would come and visit just to carve out the time to have a visiting performance, a visiting small chamber group or drumming group or whatever. You've virtually got to fight to allow for that time to be lost from the important learning. They don't use those words, but it's sort of what it means,
Yes, I understand. There is a push for that, but the pendulum's got to swing the other way at some point, right?
So. Yeah, we'll be ready when it does. Yes. So before we wrap this up, and it's been really great talking to you, Tanya, it's wonderful. I'd like to finish with a get on your soapbox. So this is your opportunity to tell everybody in the world,
because they're all listening.
Yes, they're all listening. Oh, okay. You can tell the 3 people that are tuning into this episode. Okay. I'm sure it's more. Okay, but the most important thing that you want to say to everybody, the most important thing. Okay, you're thinking.
No, I'm going to narrow it down to music education. How about that?
Okay. The most important thing about music education. Yes, gosh, actually, if you went really wide, music education, the most important thing you'd like to tell everybody. Okay, ready, set, go.
Oh, okay. I would say, if you are teaching music, please hang in there. We need you and we appreciate you, and you can do this. And it's the most fulfilling thing for you and for the students that you teach. And if you are struggling, you should reach out to other music teachers, find people that you have similar philosophies with, find groups that spark your joy of teaching, and just take from those groups and those people whatever you can that helps stoke your fire to teach music, because we need excellent music educators. As Kodai said, everyone, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have this memorized, but everyone's concerned with who's in the big opera house, but we should be looking at who is teaching those kindergartners, those preschoolers, because there is where we are creating anyone who might appreciate that music later on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he's also said, in a different quote that I'm paraphrasing, that a bad conductor will only spoil the group that they are conducting. A bad music teacher in the early years can spoil generations of music lovers, players, so that's the negative way of putting it. But wow, you could inspire generations of musicians and music lovers and people who want to spend their time, their energy, their money on being musical. Because I think we all do this because we found something in music that fulfilled us, that became the most important thing for us to do. And we want to spread that. We want to spread the love, and then we want to spread the joy. When I was 12, I thought I wanted to be a rock star. But now I've just convinced myself I'm a rock star anyway.
Oh, and the kids think you're a rock star.
They do, right?
I know.
Yeah. So if you want to be a rock star, keep teaching music. That is where it's at. Find your people, find your philosophy, and keep on going.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for talking with us, Tanya. It's been a complete delight.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. And I'm so excited to listen to your podcast.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, bye.
Bye.
As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. Have you ever thought about whiteboards? I love them. I love whiteboards. I find them quite remarkable. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.